and girls. We are going to continue with our lesson 1, and I know we went over our key points yesterday, but we're going to talk about them really quick because today we are doing our read aloud. So student will be able to ask and answer questions about the buffalo or back. What is a notice and wonder? So you know that a notice is an observation and a wonder is when you're curious about something, you have a question. And then yesterday we talked about our essential question and we learned a little bit about what we're going to be learning in module 2. But how we're going to be successful in lesson 1 and make sure that we are doing everything so that we can be or start in the right foot. So I already introduced the west of the United States. We read the essential question. We looked at the illustrations yesterday, and today we are going to read the book. And while I'm reading the book, you are going to be creating 2 notices and 2 wonders, boys and girls, okay? Why is it important? So every time that we do a small story walk, it's important because we do like small predictions. And today I'm actually going to talk about those predictions and see if my predictions were right, and compare and see how we understand an illustration and then compare it with the actual text of the illustration of the book. Before we even start an awesome read aloud, I do have to go over our listening goal, and our listening goal is notice the whole message. Remember, when we notice the whole message, we are not just listening, but we're also understanding what they're telling us. And let's prepare for this awesome read aloud. So one thing I want for us to do is to take a deep breath. So let's take a deep breath. Let's do one more. And I feel, and I have a feeling, and a very strong feeling, that some of you are not listening to me right now. So I do need for all of you to sit up straight, fix yourself, sit tall, slant to me, right? You're slanting, be a star student. And let's do this one more time. So I want you to take a deep breath. Everybody should be doing it. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Deep breath in. And deep breath out. So before we listen to the read aloud, we did this deep breathing exercise. When we take a good deep breath, it helps our bodies and our minds wake up. And it helps us have that focus and focus our brains to what we're learning. We get alert, we get focus, we prepare our minds and bodies to become good listeners, right? And good listeners focus on the reader and on the book, and that helps us understand the text better, just like I mentioned it before. So that's why we did that little smart exercise of breathing in and out. And boys and girls, you can do that whenever you do your Mayon, or whenever you guys do reading a story. You can always breathe in and breathe out so that you can be ready and prepared for your text. So now we're going to get started. And I want you to notice something very important in our cover. The title is The Buffalo Are Back. The author is Jean Craighead George. And it does not say illustrator, it does say paintings, and I know I mentioned this yesterday. It says paintings by Wendell Miner. So all these awesome pictures are paintings that someone did for this awesome book. And guys, a small reminder, you do not just have to be noticing about the words in the text. You can also notice and wonder about the paintings that you guys see. And I know that we did it in our story walk, our gallery walk. We did some notices and wonders about that, okay? So let's get started with our read aloud. I'm excited because today's read aloud is The Buffalo Are Back. We're gonna learn so many things that were happening throughout the history whenever we it's the west side, whenever people started conquering the Perry, because this is about a Perry in the west side, and it's going to be very interesting. So let's get ready to do our notices and wonders. So at this time, boys and girls, I am going to give you 30 seconds to get your Module 2 packet. This packet was given to you this past Friday. If you were not able to come in, it is okay. Just remind your parents to come and get those packets. They are going to be necessary for your next quarter when we get, when we are doing our new awesome learning. So you need your Wit and Wisdom Module 2 packet, page 1, and if you were not able to come for that packet, you can get your response journal. So get your response journal out and write notice and wonder, do that T-chart, and be ready to write 2 notices and 2 wonders in that notice and wonder chart. Okay, so 10 more seconds to get that out. So I'm giving you the option to decide if you either want to use the packet or if you don't have the packet, to use your response journal. But if you do have the packet, I do strongly suggest you use it because it is very neatly. Okay, it was done really neatly by Ms. Rodriguez and myself. So, yes. Okay, so let's start with our read aloud. Remember, 2 notices, 2 wonders. Let's get started. Remember, boys and girls, you are writing 2 notices and 2 wonders. If you do not have your Module 2 packet, you write it in your response journal. In a time long ago, an orange buffalo calf was born. He wobbled to his feet and blinked. A lark flew to the top of the 6-foot blade of grass and sang as sweetly as a panpipe. A town of prairie dogs barked. The green gold grasses of the plains rippled like waves from horizon to horizon. On that day in the mid-1800s, 75 million buffalo roam in North America. In little more than 50 years, there will be almost none. What happened? The answer is a story of American Indians, the buffalo, and the grass. The American Indians. On the day that the calf was born, the air was smoky. The Indians who lived on the plains were setting the grasses ablaze as they had for thousands of years. The fire was good for the prairie. The calf may have been afraid of the flames, but they kept the trees from taking over the grassland. The fire ashes put nutrients into the soil, making the grass healthier for the buffalo that ate it. By taking care of the grass, the Indians took care of the buffalo. In return, the buffalo took care of the Indians and the plains. Buffaloes were the Indians' food and were used to make their shelter and clothing. The buffalo never ate too much grass, and their sharp hooves helped rainwater reach into the soil, keeping the prairie healthy. The orange calf learned to roll in the dust wallow. He watched the prairie chickens show off their exotic feathers. From the Mississippi to the Rocky Mountains and from the Gulf of Mexico up to Canada, the buffalo herds gazed the Great Plains. That explains why there was fire in this illustration, or painting, I mean. The buffalo. In the mid-1800s, change came to the plains. First, it was white fur hunters. They stacked the beautiful buffalo hides in pointed canoes and sold them east for profit. Then the American explorers came, who shot many animals for fun. Buffalo made good targets for the hunters because they are so big and often stand still. But it was the settlers from the east and the American government that killed almost all of the buffalo herds. After the Civil War, the government bought huge tracts of land from the Indians. They forced many Indians to go into reservations and sold the land to settlers. Families from Europe and East Coast rushed west to settle the rich Black Prairie land. Wow, boys and girls. So who was to blame that all the buffaloes were disappearing? The government. They were kicking Indians into reservations. Reservations is like a place where they have people stay there. But there was trouble on the plains. The government broke its treaties with the Indians. Treaties are agreements that they had. So the Indians fought back and won several battles against the United States Army. Then the government saw another way to defeat the Indians. Soldiers and settlers were encouraged to shoot every buffalo they saw or drive whole herds over cliffs. Without the buffalo for food, shelter, and clothing, the Indians could not survive on the plains. Most of the last wild buffalo went down in dust and gunfire, said the great Sioux chief Sitting Bull, who defeated General George A. Custer at the Battle of Little Big Horn. A cold wind blew across the prairie when the last buffalo fell, a death wind for the people. And the settlers soon discovered a death wind for the prairie. Oh my goodness, remember the buffalo helped the prairie. The grass. With the death of the buffalo, the Indian wars were over. The settlers faced a new fight, the Battle of the Grasses. Over the aeons, the prairie grasses had adapted to the Great Plains frequent droughts by growing tough roots to hold in moisture. These roots were wide and deep and held the rich soil in place. The buffalo's sharp hooves and the Indian prairie fires had helped keep the grasses healthy, but the new settlers did not understand the importance of the grass. Early settlers were ranchers and cowboys. They bought fences and cattle to the plains. The cattle did not roam, so they ate too much of the grass within their fences. Their flat hooves packed the earth. Air and rainwater no longer reached into the soil. Later settlers wanted to farm the land, so they tore out the grass and planted crops to sell. Steel plows and steam tractors were invented to conquer the grassland, and the great plow-out began. Wheat, corn, and soybeans were planted. These crops had shallow, fragile roots. So the prairie was being hurt, and they are planting crops in this picture. At first, the crops flourished in the prairie sunshine and timely rains. New railroads carried the harvest to distant markets. Now, not one orange buffalo wobbled to its feet. The larks that once had eaten the insects living in the grass did not sing. The prairie dogs were silent. Without the buffalo, without the grasses, and without the Indians to care for them, the prairie was in danger. The settlers would soon learn why. Drought came as it had before. Billions of grasshoppers swept down on the plains. Long ago, when drought came and grasshoppers chewed the healthy grass, the plants would grow back. Their tough roots always survived. But when the fragile crops were chewed by grasshoppers, nothing grew back. Suddenly, the grasshoppers laid eggs and flew on. The farmers replanted their crops. They did not know they had begun to destroy the prairie. My goodness. When the buffalo lived on the prairie, their sharp hooves helped rain reach deep into the earth, and the tough roots of the grass held in the wet. Now, no moisture remained in the soil. The farmers' crops withered and died. In the 1930s, the plowed earth finally crumbled to dust. The wind eroded the land, picking up the dust and boiling it into terrifying black clouds. The clouds rained dirt. Barns, farms, houses, and towns were buried beneath the dust. People coughed, choked, and grew ill. Many died. Oh my. Look at that dust. What's going to happen? They're leaving, and Mrs. Alvarez thought they were coming. Hungry and penniless plain farmers and townsmen packed up their belongings and sold their worthless land to the government. The prairie soil had blown away. The land was no longer rich. The farmers climbed into old cars and left. The great plow-up had been a disaster. In just over 50 years, it had destroyed the buffalo, the protected prairie grasses, and the Indians who had cared for both. What could be done to save the prairie? So what is happening so far, boys and girls? So far, buffalo were killed. There were battles between Indians and the government. The government took over the prairie, and then the prairie was destroyed. That is what's happening right now. Let's see what's going to happen next. Do you think we can save the prairie? I don't know. Let's see. The prairie comeback. What's going to happen? In the beginning of 1900s, Americans elected a president who had once been a hunter on the Great Plains. He knew and loved the land and wanted to protect it for future generations. Nature-loving President Theodore Roosevelt especially wanted to save the buffalo. He was very fond of the great American grazer with its humpback and shaggy coat, so he sent out scouts to look for wild buffalo. The scouts came home with nothing. All the scouts but one, a naturalist named W.T.H. Hornaday, looked and would not give up. On a tip from a Crow Indian, he rode his horses into a Sequoiad Meadow in Montana, a place that had been hidden away from the world. There, before him, grazed 300 buffalo. Guys, 300 buffalo. How many buffalo were in the beginning of this story? 75 million. Does that compare to how much there was? No, only 300 buffalo he found. A little orange calf wobbled to her feet and blinked. A lark flew to the blade of the grass and sounded swiftly as a pine pipe. Wow, they had really hurt those buffalo. Look at President Theodore Roosevelt. He saved the prairie. Look at it. There had been 75 million buffalo on the plain, and now there were 300 left in the wild. That's kind of sad, boys and girls. People who understood the land, led by Hornaday, knew the buffalo had to be saved. The president helped. Roosevelt established the National Bison Range in Montana and made it illegal to shoot buffalo. Over the years, more land was set aside in the western states for the great grazing herds, which were beginning to grow. Wow. So now it's illegal. Thanks to Roosevelt, the orange calf in Montana roped with other calves and rode in the dust. Her herd grew in numbers. Many were sent to national parks and wildlife refuges that had been established to start new herds. As the dust storms attacked farms and cities, the government worked to save the prairie. Farmers were taught to plant and grow crops in curves instead of straight lines. The contour plowing helped to prevent dirt from blowing away. Government workers planted trees with deep roots to hold moisture in the soil and break the wind. When the rains returned, farmers planted grass between their curving rows of corn to hold the soil in place. Crops flourished again. All thanks to President Theodore Roosevelt and the people learning how to plant in the prairie. One day, a young girl walked into her house in Kansas waving a 6-foot blade of grass. "Where did you find that?" her father asked. "That's buffalo grass. It's been extinct for years, so we thought." "In my schoolyard," she said. "That is the land that was never plowed," her father told her. Like many other people living on the prairie, he longed to see beautiful grasses again. "Let's try to find more of these tall native grasses," he said. "Perhaps the tall grass could come back to the plains. Perhaps we will have beautiful, healthy prairie once again." People like the girl's father rounded up kids, parents, farmers, and Martians. They searched the places to plows had never reached, graveyards, old railroad beds, and crumbling fence rows. There they found small stands of native grasses: blue stem, gamma, bunch, and buffalo grass. They raised them and sowed the seeds on abandoned farms and public lands. The grasses flourished, tall and graceful. Groups that worked to protect nature purchased 30,000 acres where native grasses have been grown. This nature preserved in Oklahoma, it's called the Tall Grass Prairie Preserve. Into the tall grass, they released 300 buffalo. Wow, look at this, boys and girls. One morning, not long ago, a young man just out of graduate school galloped his horse across the Prairie Preserve, counting buffalo for the buffalo census. Suddenly, he reined in his horse. An orange calf wobbled into his feet and blinked. "Welcome, little calf," the Wichita Indian youth called. "You are America's 200,081st buffalo." A lark flew to the top of the 6-foot blade of grass and sang as sweetly as a panpipe. The buffalo are back. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful story, boys and girls. Awesome. Have your notices and wonders ready for whenever we discuss them in our live. We are going to share our observations and our questions. And then lastly, we're going to examine the poem called Buffalo Dust and work on some root words. So we are going to be working fast in our ENA module. Hi guys, I'm grading your ENA module, so your ENA module informative paragraph. So we need to, that's why I'm over here like thinking about that. But yes, we're going to be doing a vocabulary word and finishing our lesson 1 in our life. So see you there at 9 in the morning. Bye.